Hey, what's up out there, ladies and gentlemen? I want to thank you as always for swinging by the channel. You guys are all fantastic and it's greatly appreciated. Today we're going to talk about this new crime drama called The Kitchen. This one stars Tiffany Haddish, Elisabeth Moss, and Melissa McCarthy. It's based on the DC Vertigo comic series from Ollie Masters and Ming Doyle. This one is also written and directed by Andrea Berloff, and it centers on Hell's Kitchen in the 1970s as three wives decide to take over their husband's rackets when they're all sent to jail for a few years. Now, I was pretty excited to see this movie. I think the cast is just an appealing mix of personality types with a ton of potential. I also always like to see what a director can do in their first time out, like Berloff is doing in this one. Also, the premise of the story was very interesting to me, and with Berloff also having wrote the screenplays for both Mel Gibson's Bloodfather and Straight Outta Compton, I was really intrigued to see how she would structure a multi-layered time period crime thriller, and it's something that I thought she succeeded at because I had a great time with this movie. I will admit the story wasn't perfect, but the direction was very polished, the performances were very emotionally charged, and it had me completely invested. There were some things I would have done differently in terms of story progression. I do think that things get up and running a little too quickly early on. There's also a slightly rushed feel later in the film as certain layers and twists showed themselves. This just led to a second act that did have some pacing issues, but as a huge fan of this genre, I gotta say there was still more than enough substance to grab onto here. I think there was certainly progression throughout. None of the time felt wasted. I would have just maybe developed the plot with just a slightly more natural approach earlier on, and then later in the film I would have started sooner on planting certain seeds to create that curiosity and foreshadowing for the viewer a little bit earlier. Yet it was still more than able to capture a trio of compelling characters that each had their own arcs and motivations. They were not the same characters at the end of the movie that they were at the beginning, and each one of them really does grow throughout the film, which I thought kept the interest up because I think it was really easy to connect with each one of them. Their situations are just blatantly put right in front of their faces, and what lengths someone will go in order to survive is something that we can all relate to, making it really easy to put oneself in these characters' situations. And these people also didn't just snap into full-fledged criminals overnight. It was a progression that really captured a lot of fear, remorse, bravery, as well as a lot of determination that I thought really did a good job of humanizing the characters. Because for me, the performances are what made this film the very enjoyable time that it was. McCarthy, Haddish, and Moss I thought were all perfectly casted. Their chemistry together was just what this story needed, and with each one of them having their own different backdrops, I thought they were able to each make their role their own. McCarthy is pretty much just trying to survive and take care of her kids. Haddish is trying to gain the power and respect that she never had as a woman and a black woman, being an Irishman's wife, and Moss is trying to never feel her husband hit her again. And I thought all three of them were able to really infuse these roles with just the emotional layering and expression that was needed to sell these dynamics for the story. It also enabled me to connect with these characters each in different ways, which in turn just naturally elevated the intrigue to see where the story would go for each one of them. I also thought it was very enjoyable to see Haddish in a more dramatic role. I think she thrived in this film. Her edge is certainly there, but the comedic overcoat was missing, and I think it was perfect for the needs of this story. The same would go for McCarthy, who I thought was excellent in this one as well. She has certainly done a lot of non-comedic work in the past, and here again I think she was everything this character needed. And Elisabeth Moss was excellent. She was capable as she always is. She has some strong standout scenes as well as some nicely timed dark moments of levity, and I thought she was just a subtle but very great addition to this cast. And I must say Domhnall Gleeson was a standout as a smaller character who was just so extremely good in this dark but oddly comical role, because I think one of the bright spots in Berloff's script was how she framed up the humor overall. It wasn't in the form of jokes or one-liners, but more so in situational responses and various scenarios that I thought was effectively able to create many charming emotional swings without ever undercutting the intensity of the main story. I also got to say Berloff's direction was very nicely done. This film is very unrelenting when the violence kicks in, and it just captures that true vibe of an organized crime movie. I think the violence isn't excessive, but I guess not excessive in terms of quality, but when it splashes in, I think it lands with impact, and it was just really perfect for the needs of the story to just capture that gritty tone they were looking for. So overall, I gotta say this movie is a success, and The Kitchen from me gets 90% on the entertainment meter. It was filled with a lot of tension, a lot of intrigue. The time period was captured with solid production design and just great wardrobe work, as as well as a fantastic soundtrack to just give this movie a ton of atmosphere. McCarthy, Haddish, and Moss really do shine on their own, and they're incredible when they're all together on screen. And if you like this genre, I definitely recommend giving this movie a shot. Now for today's My Silver Screen recommendations, I'm going to be selecting American Gangster starring Denzel Washington and Russell Crowe, as well as Goodfellas starring Pesci, De Niro, and Liotta, and finally A Most Violent Year starring Oscar Isaac and Jessica Chastain. Thank you so much for watching this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, drop it a thumbs up, leave a comment below. I'd love to talk movies with you guys. Share it with your friends, and without question, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you can never miss a video. Here are some links to some recent reviews just in case you missed them. All my social media links and the link to our official website are down in the description below, and I'll catch you next time.